Okay. All right, we're live. Good morning, guys. I am racing today. Does anybody have any questions on what we've gone over or what you've read or any final questions? Today is the day to ask the final questions. You guys still have access to me. On the top of your syllabus is my email address. So you can always email me. You can also join a live to ask a question that comes up. You can put a comment on a video asking questions. You still have access to me, just not live access sitting in the classroom after today. Good morning. So no final questions? Everybody good? All right, today's lesson's actually going to be a little bit shorter. I've got some things I have to go over with you. Actually, a lot of things. We're going to talk about continuing education, renewal processes, employment, those types of things. Not CNA directly related to the test, but related to more to employment. So we still have a lot to cover, but you should have about 2 hours of practice at the end of today, if all goes well. All right, so let me get your scores for chapter 10. Dina? Ashley?
57 out of 60.
Okay, oh, that's the practice test. This would be chapter 10, page 190.
20 out of 20.
20 out of 20? Okay, so we'll get to the practice test in a minute. Abby?
20 out of
Caitlin? Carsey? Pilar?
20 out of 20.
Michelle?
20 out of 20.
And Lisa?
20 out of 20.
Thank you. All right, did anybody take the practice test on page 191? Okay. How'd you do? 3?
2.
2? 2? All right, very good. So that's a very good indicator of how you're going to do on the written state exam. Were there any questions on there that you struggled with specifically that you want me to go over? Yes. Okay, let me. Okay, thank you. Bandwidth, yeah. All right. Those of you that are joining us live, if we're a little pixelated, we seem to be having some bandwidth issues. We're on Wi-Fi, so sometimes that can happen. Just bear with me. All right, so question 34 on page 194. Is that the one that we're looking at? What? 34 or 35? 35, okay. So 35 is a question that's asking if you recognize abnormals. So looking at this, it says, which of the following vital signs would be reported to the nurse immediately? So let's just look at temperature first. So that's the first reading on there. T is for temperature. Anybody remember what normal temperature range is? So 97.6 to 99.6. So if we look through there, there's only one that doesn't fit in that normal. So let's kind of think about A for a second, right? It doesn't fit our normal temperature ranges. So we'll keep that in the back of our head. The rest of the temps are normal. Let's go on to pulse. What is a normal pulse rate?
Pulse rate, anything between 60 and 100.
60 and 100. So let's look at those pulse. P is for pulse. So A is 114. That doesn't fit our normals. So far we don't have a normal temperature and we don't have a normal pulse on A. All the rest of them are okay. Respiration rate. What is normal for respirations? 12 to 20. So respiration rate on A is 24, which is outside of the normal. So far, A has an abnormal temperature, an abnormal pulse, and an abnormal respiration rate. The rest of them are all okay. Let's go on to BP, or blood pressure. The blood pressure normal for the top is 100 to 119 for the top number. That's normal. 60 to 79 is normal for the diastolic, or bottom number. So the blood pressure there is 98/62 for A. Now, 98 is below our normal for systolic. Diastolic's okay, 62, that's within normal ranges. But A, we have an abnormal temperature, an abnormal pulse, an abnormal respiration, and a slightly lower blood pressure. So that means that this patient needs to be seen right away by the nurse. Chances are this patient has an infection of some sort, and this could be the beginning indications of shock. A low blood pressure, a high pulse is an indication of shock. So we want to make sure that this gets reported to the nurse right away. This could be a little bit more serious than just an infection. This could be indicating sepsis. Now, the problem is that as CNAs, you see the patients way more often than anybody else does. You are in the room for feeding and toileting and dressing and grooming and bathing. You're in the room all the time. So when you take vital signs and you get readings like this, they're all just a little bit off. Nothing that really jumps out at you, but they're all a little bit off. If you don't report this to the nurse, we've missed an assessment opportunity. If you think, yeah, it's just a little bit off on the temperature, remember 99.6 is still considered normal. This is 99.9. It's a little bit off on the pulse, 114, 60 to 100 is normal. 114 is a little bit high. Respirations, 12 to 20 is normal. This is 24, a little bit off. And blood pressure is just a little bit low. So everything's just a little bit off. But if we don't catch this and report it, the patient can decelerate very, very quickly, decompensate. Claudia says, your videos are the best out there. These helped me pass my exam in 2021, and I've been working in the field since 2023. I'm grateful for our RN instructor for recommending us your videos. Congratulations. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that, Claudia. Thank you. Those are very kind words. I appreciate that. So when you will get a question like this on the state exam. You're going to get a question that asks you to find an abnormal vital sign. Because remember, that's a big part of what we do. So we have to know those normals. You have to know the normals. And then you've got to be able to pick them out of a list. For the test, it'll probably be a little more obvious than this one. I mean, the abnormal will be abnormal. But this is a very good indicator because everything is a little bit abnormal. Make sense? Any other questions on this one?
Not on this one, but question 16, 192.
16, okay. 16 is asking about bed alarms. And I think chapter 3 goes over, in the Hartman book, went over bed alarms a little bit, but let me explain to you what a bed alarm is. We know we can't use restraints. We know restraints are a no-go unless we have a doctor's order. So how do we keep our patients safe without using restraints? Well, one of the things that we can do is use a bed alarm or a chair alarm. And what that does, it's a pressure pad. That's all it is. So when the patient's laying in bed or sitting on a chair, the weight of their body is pressing down on the pad, no alarm. The minute the weight of the body lifts off of that pad and there's no pressure on it anymore, an alarm sounds, not it's more of an alert. I don't like the word alarm. Okay. It's more of an alert. And what that's telling staff members is, hey, somebody who is a fall risk is up and moving around. You probably want to check on that and make sure they don't need help. So that's what a bed alarm or a chair alarm is. It's a pressure pad that alerts staff when somebody is up off of that surface so that you can ensure their safety.
I think that one wrong. I think I put is a restraint alternative.
That should be correct.
Okay.
16 should be C. Let me just make sure that yeah, 16, yeah. So a bed alarm doesn't really confine somebody to bed. I mean, they can still get up and move. It's just that staff is going to be alerted if they move. It doesn't confine them. Like restraints prevent somebody from getting out of bed. We tie them down or put obstacles in their way. A bed alarm doesn't do any of that. It just alerts staff. Right, a restraint alternative. We use it instead of a restraint so that we're not restricting their motion, but we're still seeing to their safety. Good. Any others? So those of you that are just joining us, if you're wondering what we're talking about, this is a practice test in our book, this book, on page 191. It's a full 60-question practice test, and we're just going over a couple of the questions that students had questions on. It's a good indicator of the state exam. Any other questions before we move on? Yes. Okay. Diets, there aren't very many diets in chapter 8, but it's more along the lines of if somebody's on a low sodium diet, that means we want to restrict how much sodium. So if you see a salt packet on a tray that's marked low sodium, what should you do? Take it away. Yeah. And sometimes that happens, Dietary gets busy and they're used to putting salt and pepper packets on all the trays. So it's kind of up to us before we give it to the patient to take a look. Make sure that we're passing the right trays to the right patients. So things like if we have somebody who has advanced kidney disease, they're going to be on a low protein diet. Now, if we've got somebody on a low sodium diet because they have high blood pressure and somebody else on a low protein diet because they've got kidney disease, and we switch those trays by accident, that's going to be very bad for both of them. Does that make sense? You'd want to figure that out pretty quickly, hopefully before you pass the trays. But if you've passed the trays and they've started eating, don't let them keep eating. As soon as you realize you made a mistake, stop them. I'm so sorry. Let me take these trays away and get replaced. They've already started eating. Don't switch them, right? Let me go get replacement trays. We've got to recognize it. What they're trying to find out, what they're actually asking you on questions like that is, are you just going to let them keep eating? Do you think it's, do you think it's a no big deal situation? That's what they're looking for here, is the understanding that diets impact health in a very big way. We've all heard that statement, you are what you eat. And that is very, very true. So things like salt, sugar, certain herbs can affect vital processes. Liquids, if we have somebody who is on dialysis, we monitor how much liquid they take in because they don't have the kidneys available to excrete liquid, maintain their fluid balance. So you can overload them with fluids. So they're on a very strict liquid restriction. You wouldn't want to just leave a water cup next to somebody who's on a fluid restriction because it could end up killing them. So an old question that was on one of the tests years and years ago, this is actually, it has to do with diet, but it's actually an ethics question. So let me give you this question to you and see if you can figure out the ethics part of this, right? So you're caring for a patient on a fluid restriction, or I'm sorry, you're caring for a patient on a clear liquid diet, And they ask you, now clear liquids means you can see through the liquid. And they ask you to go down to the vending machine and get them Dr. Pepper. And they hand you a $20 bill and say, you can keep the change. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't a clear liquid diet. It was a fluid restriction. I'm trying to remember it's years ago. They were on a fluid restriction. Here's $20. Go get me a Dr. Pepper. Keep the change. It's going to cost you, what, $2 out of that 20? So this is an $18 tip. Yay. That's awesome, right? Would you do it?
No.
Why?
Because it's so restrictive.
Okay, because they're on a fluid restriction. That's right. So that is technical, the right answer. But this is actually an ethics question. Because, yep, you should not accept a tip for doing your job. Does that make sense? So there was one answer on there that, you took the money, gave them their soda. That answer would actually flag an ethics concern. So let's talk about that for a second. Why can't we get tipped? I mean, everybody's asking for tips now. You go through a drive-through and they hand you your money or your food, they want a tip, right? They want a tip for doing their job. We are right now in a tip culture, and I get it because life is expensive. And those people need a little bit more money than what they're getting paid at the window to make ends meet. I get it. I do. But the problem is in healthcare, that opens up a whole new can of worms that we haven't really thought about. So let's think about it. When you have, I'm just going to pick on you two, okay? You two are caring for this patient. And this patient gives you a gift card for Walmart for $100 to say thank you because she really likes the care that you give. You've provided the exact same care. So what kind of way are you feeling about that? Yeah, you didn't get $100. You did the same job. Hold up. Why are you getting paid extra and she's not? So now she could retaliate against the patient, right? And give poor care. Or, and that's a scenario we're all pretty familiar with, or what's more likely to happen is we're not going to tell her. This is just between you two. You're going to keep your mouth shut, not say anything. So nobody else knows that you got a $100 gift card. This patient is buying you because at some point she's going to ask you to do something that's not allowed. And you have accepted money. So you are more likely to allow that action, whatever it is, or if you don't, she has a hold on you now because she knows that if she reports it, it's your job. Do you see how that could turn into something not so nice? I mean, $100 gift card, that sounds nice. But we have to understand that when it comes to healthcare, we are providing daily care for these patients over and over and over again. This is not a one and done. This is not drive up to a window, get your food, and leave. You are providing personal services over an extended period. If you take additional money for that, they are buying you. But they're also causing strife between the staff members. It's not a good practice. Does that make sense? Chrissy says, good morning, Miss Patty. Can you place the bedpan on the overbed table for the exam once the barrier is on the table? Yes, Chrissy, you can. Perfectly okay for the test. That's the new videos that we have. If you haven't watched the new videos, go watch the new one. But yes, the new videos show me putting a barrier on the table and putting the bedpan on the barrier because I'm bringing the video more in line with prometric testing principles. That being said, I don't like it. I don't like putting a toileting item on an eating surface, even with a barrier there, really high on my gross meter, let me tell you. So when I am doing this in a clinical setting, I don't put the bedpan on the table. I leave it in the drawer until I'm ready for it. I just open the drawer, put the pad, put my gloves on, put the pad under the patient, and then grab the bedpan out of the drawer and put it under the patient. I don't put it on the table. You can do it that way. It's fine. It's fine. But because there's some checkpoints on the evaluator's checklist that indicates putting a barrier on the table before you put the bedpan on it, I had to reflect it in the video. I would do it. Yeah, I would do it the way your book shows you, the step-by-step in the book and the new video. People are still passing the old way. It's not a problem. Okay, you may see a deficiency. I don't know what they mark off, but you may see a deficiency, but do it the new way, you'll get a perfect score. I just don't like it. I don't like it. Does that make sense? Weiser says, I'm new here. I just concluded my CNA program via London Till Career Institute. Please, I need a job, even though is residential. Okay, hang out for a little while, Weiser, because we are going to talk about employment in just a few minutes. And I'll give you some tips on how to find a job as a CNA, because it's not like other industries. And you can see that, some people are having some problems. Marlene says the patient could also be disoriented and say that the CNA stole the gift card. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and on that vein, that's a very good point, Marlene. Thank you for bringing that up. On that same vein, let me give you something else that can be a really big, awesome, really big red flag here. When you're doing hand and nail care on somebody, it's if they have rings on, it's kind of a common practice to take the ring off. Don't put the ring on the table, because when you bundle up that barrier, you could accidentally throw the ring away. So what a lot of CNAs will do is they'll slide the ring on their finger to hold it safe. Now, it sounds like a reasonable practice. What could that patient say? That's right. That's right. When you wear a piece of somebody, jewelry is very personal. You wear, especially a wedding ring. Don't ever put a wedding ring that belongs to somebody else on your finger. There is something that will set somebody off faster than anything else. So don't ever put jewelry on that doesn't belong to you, even for safekeeping. And I understand a lot of CNAs do that. The best thing to do is leave the jewelry on the patient. Don't take those rings off. Leave the jewelry on the patient and wash around them. Don't remove jewelry. That could be a test question, by the way. Could be a test question. Don't remove jewelry. Just wash around it. But yeah, there's something to putting somebody else's wedding ring on your finger. It does not sit well with people.
What if you let the patient know that you still put it on the tape on top of the toilet paper?
I wouldn't. I would leave all jewelry where it is on the patient, because what if it falls onto the floor and gets lost? There's a lot of things that can happen to jewelry when it's not physically attached to the person. And I don't want that responsibility. Dilma says, I have exam tomorrow. I've been studying with your videos. I'm so nervous. Wish me luck. I'm from Sarasota, Florida. Dilma, we send great vibes out your way. You're going to do fantastic. Come back and let us know how you do so we can congratulate you. But you've got this. You got this. Go watch the videos, especially the new ones. I've got 7 of them up now. Go watch those new videos, because they show the testing checkpoints right on the screen. They'll help you out. But good luck. Let us know how you do. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Any other questions? Going once. Okay. When you take that practice test on page 191, this is the answer key for that practice test, so you can grade it. Remember, if you miss more than 5, you need to contact me. I got to figure out, why did you miss more than 5? Where did I go wrong? And I'm going to help you figure out where your deficiencies are so we can, fix it before you get to the test. If you missed 5 or less on my test, you're good. You're ready for the written part. But you got to start practicing the skills. Last class, if you have not registered for the state exam, please do. Please do. What's that? Just, yep, you've registered, just waiting on that approval, I know. All right, page 171 is going to go over renewal requirements. I'm going to show you a video on this. This looks a lot more complex than it actually is. All of the notes from the video are right here for you. You don't have to take notes. But I need you to know where to find, I'm about to show you a video, but I need you to know where to find this video because your certification is going to expire 1 or 2 years from now. Long time away. You are not going to remember everything I say in this class a year from now, and you're definitely not going to remember it 2 years from now. So I need you to know where to find this video. If you go onto my website, 4YourCNA.com, under after certification, because renewal is after certification, the second option down is CNA renewal instructions. So the video that I'm going to show you, this video is on that page of my website. Good? You know how to find it? You also have your book that has all the notes. So if you don't want to watch the video, just read the notes. All right. So let's go ahead and watch that video. Jake, if you want to put up the renewal video, please, from class 8. I got it. How to renew your Florida CNA certification, a guide for Florida CNAs, brought to you by 4YourCNA.com. After you pass your state exam, you will receive your certification card in the mail. This card gives you valuable information. Take a moment to look it over. Check your name and address to make sure they are correct. Make a note of your CNA certification number. You will need this for employment and in-service credit. Your certification also comes with a convenient wallet card. Sign this and keep it in your wallet for handy proof of certification. But one of the most important things you need to pay attention to is the expiration date. It will be located near the top of the blue card in the grid. In Florida, CNAs are divided into 2 groups, odd year group and even year group. Everyone in the even year group will renew their certifications in even years, such as 2018, 2020, 2022, and so on. Everyone in the odd year group will renew their certifications in odd years, such as 2017, 2019, etc. When you become certified, you will join one of these groups. But which group you end up in has nothing to do with when you test. You will be assigned a group when you receive your first certification, and you will remain in that group even if you allow your certification to lapse and you retest later in life. So how do you know when you will have to renew? It's easy. Check your expiration date. Every certification will expire on May 31st, either in an odd year or an even year. You need to know which group you are in. This is Jenny. Jenny became a CNA in 2017. She was placed into the even year group, so her expiration date will be in even years. She is joining a group already in progress, so her expiration date will be the same as theirs.
regardless of when she became certified. Everyone in this group has the same expiration date. So, do I have to take the test again? No. As long as you meet all the requirements and renew on time, you will never have to take the state boards again. In order to renew your CNA certification in Florida, you must meet 2 requirements and pay a small fee. You must work at least once as a CNA for pay in this renewal cycle. You must complete the required number of in-service hours and pay the renewal fee. We will look at each of these in more detail in the following section. In Florida, every CNA is required to perform nursing-related services for monetary compensation within the renewal period in order to renew their certification. That means they have to get paid to do CNA skills. This rule is in effect to ensure that CNAs are using their skills so that they do not forget what they have learned. But there are no specific amount of hours that are required. But be careful. If you are not currently working in healthcare as a CNA, you may not be able to renew. But there is a way. Follow me to see Jim's story. This is Jim. Jim became certified as a CNA in 2016. Jim planned on going to work in the local hospital after he became certified. But Jim's uncle needed help at his bank and hired Jim. Jim likes his new job at the bank and he's doing very well there. He doesn't want to leave the bank, but he wants to keep his CNA certification active. He worked hard to get it. One of Jim's bank customers, a supervisor at the local home health agency, mentioned that they were looking for weekend CNAs to care for some of their new clients. Jim immediately filled out an application. He was hired and now works only one Saturday a month. Jim kept his regular job at the bank, but still met the requirements for renewal. Jim will keep one of his pay stubs for proof of the work requirement. Now let's look at the second requirement, in-services. In Florida, continuing education courses for CNAs are called in-services. You must complete a certain amount of continuing education every renewal period in order to renew your certification. You must complete continuing education in-services in certain topics every renewal period. These will include bloodborne pathogens and infection control, domestic violence, medical record documentation, resident rights, communication with cognitively impaired individuals, CPR skills, and medical error prevention and safety. So remember your expiration date on your certification. You need to compute how many months you will have that certification to determine how many hours you need. You will need 1 hour of in-service for every month that you are certified. First, locate the date that your certification was issued. Then locate your expiration date. Count the number of months that you will have your certification in this certification period. So if this certification issue date was January 1st, 2017, and the expiration date is May 31st, 2018, there are 17 months of certification. This certification will be valid for 17 months before renewal. So this certification will require 17 hours of in-services for renewal. Once you have done your required topics, the remainder of the hours can be in a topic you choose. Choose topics that relate to your work environment or an environment that you want to work in. The topics you choose are entirely up to you, and the choices are endless. In-services can even help you if you want to change jobs. How? I'm glad you asked. Let's say that you currently work in a dementia unit. But then your friend tells you about a job opening at a local hospital. You've never worked in a mother-baby unit, but you really want this job. You can complete in-service topics related to this new opportunity to show motivation. This shows that although you lack experience, you are willing to learn. Supervisors like that. Now that you know how many in-service hours you need for renewal and what the required topics are, you need to find out how to get them. Most workplaces require an orientation session for new employees. Some employers will give you in-service credit for completing these modules during orientation. In-services can be awarded for watching videos, classroom instruction, formal group discussions, or even self-study at home. This is a great interview question. Do you offer in-service training hours? In-services can also be awarded for topics discussed in monthly workplace meetings. Sometimes hospitals and other community agencies will host continuing education opportunities. These are often advertised online or in community newspapers or bulletins. But for many CNAs, the easiest way to get your required in-services is online. There are many online in-service providers. Each is structured a bit differently, but most have some sort of free trial. Simply search for CNA In-Services Florida in your favorite search engine. If you are unsure if the provider you want to use is recognized by the Board of Nursing as an approved provider, you can check them out on CE Broker. Go to cebroker.com. Under Course Search, select your state and your profession, and then click the Begin Search bar. Now click the Providers tab to access a list of approved providers. You can also search for courses right on this website. So far, we've learned how to work at least once as a CNA for pay this renewal cycle, and we've learned how to complete the required number of in-service hours. So all that's left is to renew and pay the fee. The bottom of your certification card contains the information you will need to renew. Your specific renewal instructions are printed here. Once you access the website listed on your certification card, flhealthsource.gov, click on Renew a License. After logging in, follow the prompts, check off the requirements, and pay the fee. Renewal can take less than 15 minutes to complete as long as all of your requirements are met. You will sign in with your username and password on your certification card. You do not have to send anything to the Board of Nursing to prove that you've met the requirements. You only need to send proof, which would consist of a pay stub and in-service certificates, if the Board of Nursing requests them from you. You must keep your proof for at least 4 years after renewing. Never, ever lie on your renewal. The Board of Nursing does periodic audits. The penalties for lying on your renewal are severe. Make sure you've met all the requirements before completing your renewal. You now have all the knowledge you need to renew your CNA certification in Florida. Remember to look at your new certification card for your next expiration date. Until then, happy caregiving!
Sorry, you were muted for that portion. So
Oh, thank you so much, Helen. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
my apologies.
That's okay. So Nikichi says, hi, Miss Patty. Even after passing my CNA at the first attempt with the help of your live classes, videos, books, and flashcards, I'm still coming back to your videos for most of my LPN practicals. Thank you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about how things have changed now. So I'll be updating this video in the next couple of weeks. You can go ahead and take that down, Jake, if you don't mind. I'll be updating this video in the next couple of weeks because this process has changed. We no longer get blue cards. This is a brand new change. They're no longer mailing these out. It costs a lot of money to print these and mail them. So there are no physical CNA certification cards. There's no RN blue cards anymore either, or LPN. So everything has gone electronic. Now there's a couple of reasons for that. And one of the reasons is beyond cost is that these can be altered. So if somebody gets a hold of your certification card, they can change the name on it with Photoshop, make it look very authentic, and now they can pass themselves off as a CNA. That actually happened here in this county. A nurse that was working for the school board had her nursing license stolen, copied, and altered for somebody to pretend to be an LPN to work at the school board. So these things do happen, and that's not an isolated incident, unfortunately. So we now have moved to an all electronic process. And the way this works is you won't get a blue card in the mail. You're going to get an email that says, congratulations, you're a CNA. They'll give you your CNA number. And then any employer that wants to hire you will go onto a website, a very specific website, to verify your certification. And that means that nobody can alter that. It's very secure. Okay. So if you want to look up your certification, you just go to your favorite search engine, type in CNA license, look up Florida, and it'll take you to, it's an MQA site, mqa.doh.fl.gov/ it's like a really long one. Just go to your search engine, Florida CNA license lookup, and it'll bring you to a page that you're going to put in your last name, your first name. It's got other information there that you can put in if you want, but you can search very simply just using your name. Hit search and it'll pull up your specific license information, your number, your expiration date, all of that. So one of the things that I recommend now for students is to make sure that you know your expiration date when it gets, when you get your first certification. Go into your calendar, whatever calendar you use, electronic calendar, and put a reminder in there a month before. So we know your certification ends on May 31st. Let's say it's going to end 2026. You are going to put in an alert on your calendar for April 30th, 2024 or whatever year. And it'll remind you that, your renewal is coming up. You can also, I suggest for every CNA in April, go look up your renewal. Just go look at your license and make sure you know what year you're renewing in. Everybody should be doing that in April. Everybody. So this is super, super important, guys. If you don't renew on time, they charge you a whole lot more money. And then if you are 6 months late, you have to go through this whole process again. You don't want to do that. Hey, Miss Patty, can someone tell the patient that the reason I do not want to remove your ring is because it can be displaced? Sure, absolutely. But you really don't even have to tell the patient anything. Just don't address the rings. Just wash around them. There's no real reason that you would need to explain this off that I can think of. It might come up occasionally, but yeah, I don't want to lose it. That's a great reason. And the patient will absolutely, they'll absolutely be on board with that. So we don't have these blue cards anymore. What you will get in February, I told you to put in a reminder in your email or your calendar for April, but in February, you're going to get an email from the Board of Nursing that says, hey, you have to renew this year. And then in March, you will get an email from the Board of Nursing. It says May 31st, and renewal is now open because they open up renewal 60 days before. So renewal is now open. In April, you will get another email from the Board of Nursing saying, don't forget. And then in May, I think you get if you haven't renewed, I think you get like a renewal every 2 weeks or something, renewal notice. So they notify, it's all automated, guys. They're going to notify you. The problem is if you aren't monitoring your email, you may miss this. So make sure you just make it a habit to check your emails. Or if you change email addresses, that can be a problem. Make sense? Good. So this blue card you aren't going to get anymore. I'll be changing that video for the new process. No wallet card either. I know. So my my RN license expires on the 30th of this month. And I don't have, I went looking for my wallet card the other day because the place I was at was going to give a discount if you can prove you're a nursing professional. Cool. I go looking for my wallet card, and the only one I've got expired in 2021 because they didn't issue me one. So, yes, they do. They do. So you're probably going to want to go onto that website, take a screenshot of it so you can prove. But there are actual, not programs, not companies, those aren't the right words, organizations, I guess, like Real ID Me, Real, there's another one, it's Real something. But they're ways, basically they're an intermediary third party that verifies that you are a medical professional. I would probably register with them just so that, because a lot of companies now use them. A lot of companies now use them. I think it's ID.me, I think is the one that I'm using right now. Is that it? Okay. It might not be it. I'm not sure. Yeah, search engine. But I'll put that in the new video. I'll do that research and put it in the new video when. So, great question, Betty. Can you renew it before May if they notify you in like March? Yes, they usually open up renewal. I know it's 60. It might be 90 days, but I think for some reason I'm thinking it's 60 days before the renewal is due. They'll open it up. I have to do my continuing ed. I cannot renew yet. And I have to do 24 hours of continuing ed. So I'm going to be sitting in front of a computer doing 24 hours of continuing education for someone that teaches all day. So yeah, I've got to do that next week. That'll be my new thing, but I won't get a blue card either. All right. Any questions on that process? Yeah. To get into a LPN program, most what they call competitive entry programs require the TEAS test. And what that means is, so, okay, I've got 16 chairs in here. How many students can I take? 16. If I've got 180 that signed up for these 16 seats, can I take all 180? I've got to narrow it down. I've got 16 seats. That's it. That's all I've got. So I've got to put butts in the seats that have the best chances of completing the program. Make sense? So one of the ways that we're going to do that is through a basic competency test. I want to find out, do you have good reading comprehension? Because guys, we're going to bury you in textbooks. You got to read your way out of it. So if you don't have good reading comprehension, I don't want your butt in the seat because you're taking away from somebody that might be more successful. Does that make sense? You have to have basic math skills, especially as a nurse, because we're doing drug calculations. That's really, really important. So basic math skills, I'm going to find out if you know how to add, subtract, divide, work with decimals. If you don't, we don't have time to teach you basic math. Go learn that and then come back. We want to make sure you have a basic understanding of science because healthcare is science. We also want you to have a basic understanding of humanities because we are the human part of healthcare. Nursing. So you got to have some skills to be successful in nursing school. The only way to figure out do you have those skills is through some sort of an entrance exam. Some places use HESI, some places use TEAS. I think HESI is kind of the old one. I don't know that anybody's using that anymore. Same process, same idea. Now, sometimes you can get around this by going to a for-profit, non-competitive entry private school. So basically, a private school will take you as long as you got the money to pay them. It's not competitive entry. And all of the burden is now on you. If you don't get it, that's on you. If you didn't have the skills to succeed, that's on you. And if you took out a student loan to get into that $50,000 program, you're still stuck paying that student loan regardless of whether you were successful or not. You took a $50,000 loan thinking that you're going to graduate and become a nurse and be able to pay that back. But what if you don't? Still got that loan. So non-competitive entry programs put all of the burden on you to make sure you succeed, which is fine, but you've got to do a little self-reflection before you sign up for that. Good? Makes sense?
On that note, do you know of any good EMT paramedic schools around here? Because I was looking up some and
I do in Sarasota.
I mean, I'm willing to travel.
I do in Sarasota.
I'm just curious.
Let's CPR LETS. It's Landa's Education Training Center, I think is but it's Let's CPR LETS. They have a very successful, they're very integrated into the community. PHSC has one. I know nothing about their program. Is it? Okay. And so you got an endorsement for PHSC. And then up in Citrus County, so one county north, depending on where you're at. Okay, yeah, up in Citrus County, there's a Nature Coast EMS training, I believe. It's Nature Coast something, but I think it's EMS training. Those
They offer all the way up to paramedic.
I do believe so. Yeah, I do believe so. I am going to give you a warning, though. And this is something that a lot of people don't really stop to think about. Most counties will not hire you as a paramedic unless you're dual certified as a firefighter.
Okay.
So that means you've got to go through EMS training, but you've also got to go to fire college as well for dual certification to work. So I don't think that this isn't my industry. So I don't think that EMTs have to be fire certified, but paramedics do. So that could, affect your longer term goals. So I would definitely contact the county that you wish to work for, their emergency services, and find out what they require. But I know Hernando County requires dual certification. Let's talk about math. Question I get asked a lot, and I've got to make a slide on this because I have no way to write this down for you, okay? But a question I get asked a lot is, those of you that want to go for nursing, should I go straight for the RN or should I go LPN RN? And there's pros and cons for both, but I just want to talk economics for a minute. Okay, just economics. As a CNA, and I'm going to use very simple numbers. They're not going to be completely accurate. Okay, keep that in mind. They're not going to be completely accurate. But let's say, because, you know, wages are changing. Let's say that as a CNA, you're making $15 an hour. Okay, probably make a little more than that, but let's just say $15 an hour. Let's say that, well, minimum wage is what now? 13? All right. So let me change my numbers. So minimum wage 13. Let's say as a CNA, you're making 18. So you're making $5 more an hour. That's good. If you go straight for RN, it's 2 years of RN school, but you have to have a year of prereqs first. It's 3 years of school to get a 2-year degree. Nursing is the only 2-year degree that requires 3 years of school. I don't understand it, but that's just the way it is. So 3 years of school. If all you're working is minimum wage, making $13 an hour during that 3 years, think of all the money that you've made in that 3-year time. Okay. Now, let's say that you're working as a CNA. Now you're at $18 an hour, $5 an hour more. So I don't have the math, but you guys can do the math, okay? So if you're working 40 hours a week and you're making $5 more an hour, that's $200 more a week, 52 weeks a year. So that's what, about 25, so 5, I don't know.
So 18 an hour times
So what was $200 a week times 52 weeks? So that's 004, $10,400. So 10,000, just easy, $10,000 more a year just being a CNA. But 3 years times 3 years, you just made $30,000 more being a CNA during RN school than you would have made in a regular job, right? So that almost pays for, you know, your training. That's good. That's awesome, right? Just being a CNA. But let's take that first year and become an LPN, because it only takes 1 year to become an LPN. No prereqs, just 1 year. Now, instead of making $18 an hour, you're making $25 an hour for those last 2 years. So $25 an hour times 40 hours a week times 52 weeks. Okay, so that's $52,000 a year times 2 years. You've made $100,000 while you're in RN school. Do you guys see how that works? If you go up the ladder, you're making more while you're training. And economically, it actually ends up paying for your training.
For LPN, is it really hard to get into a hospital as an LPN?
Yes, hospitals do not.
Well, actually,
So let me give you a history lesson. Years ago, hospitals hired LPNs. Then they got rid of LPNs, and it was just RN, PCT. Now they're bringing LPNs back into the hospital. It's becoming a little bit easier, but they're replacing RNs with LPNs, not PCTs. So it's, yes, they're hiring LPNs again, but they're giving them way more responsibilities. So if you can find an LPN position, you're going to be making LPN wages, but having RN responsibilities. So you kind of have to figure out, is that worth it to you? Now, I don't know if that trend has come down into our area, because Florida is always a little weird with timing. So I don't know where we're at with that, but I do know that that is the new trend.
Okay, I have another question. So you know how you said that what we do to
to a patient goes back on a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about the story of the baby? Where the piece, it was supposedly the nurse picked up the baby, dropped the baby.
Yes, the NICU
and then
baby.
it was the PCT.
T, yeah.
So whose fault is that?
Because I don't want to, legally, I can't answer that question, okay? But let me give you some hypotheticals.
Mute the mic if you want to.
I don't, because I don't know the whole story, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about this because it's a very valid point, right? Because we're going to be direct care providers like PCTs. If you're working in a hospital, they'll probably call you a PCT. So let's talk about this. So if the care plan, if this was part of the regular job responsibilities, it's in the job description, it's part of the care plan, the PCT did what she was supposed to do and accidentally dropped the child, that's on the nurse.
That's what I thought. But if it's not in the care plan, then it's a PCT.
Right. If this PCT said, oh, how cute, I love this little baby, I love baby so much, I'm going to pick the baby up, and it was not part of their job description and not part of, and I'll tell you what, from now on, after this, it will never be in the job description for a PCT to handle, to lift up a premature infant, a NICU baby. It's just not, it will not happen from this point any further. Every single administrator right now is rewriting job descriptions.
So along with that, since the baby did end up passing away, does that mean the nurse loses her job if it comes down that it was in the care plan? Or would the PCT get charged if it was not in the care plan?
I don't know. And we are in a very litigious society with nurses right now. Nurses are being charged with a lot of things that they historically was left up to the employer for disciplinary processes. So they're blurring the lines between legal and board reviewed. That line is getting really blurry right now. So I don't know. I can't answer that because things are changing right now. However, as a parent, something should happen because the whole purpose, if that baby was at home, right? So the baby wasn't at home. The baby was too sick to be home. The parents were not equipped to take care of that baby. Therefore, the baby is in a place with trained people that are equipped to take care of that baby, and they failed to do so. They were trained. That is their job, and they failed to keep that baby safe. So there is a burden on the healthcare worker here. Absolutely. And there should be a burden on the healthcare worker. Whether that burden is ethical, procedural, or legal, I can't answer that. Ethical means that, is this something that we should be doing? Should we be letting PCTs perform this task? Procedural, policies and procedures, Board of Nursing, state statutes, that's got to be addressed. And then, of course, there's legal. Who's going to be charged, if anyone? Accidents happen. They do. They happen. Absolutely. There have been a fair number of parents that have accidentally dropped their kids.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh, as a parent, I would be out for blood.
Oh, yeah.
I would absolutely be out for blood, 100%. And I get it. I do understand. How much of this, though, here's a question for you, and this is my soapbox lately. How much of this was due to the fact that they have so overwhelmed the nurses that the nurse wasn't able to care for that infant properly and assigned the CNA to do that task? So how much of this is the employer's responsibility for failing to maintain safe staffing ratios?
Isn't it mostly always the employer's fault. Like when you go back to it, they're never in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Lately, they've been able to dodge all responsibility.
I've seen like people say that their ratio was like 30 to 1,
Yes.
20 to 1.
Yes. Yep. That's a fight that needs to happen. I'm not the one to lead it, but it's a fight that needs to happen. So, any other question? Yes, that's just, to me, heartbreaking. Heartbreaking all the way around. Heartbreaking. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But this is why I spend so much time in this class talking about care plans and chain of command and report to the nurse and working as a team. We have to understand these principles, because what if, let me just give you, what if that PCT went through a training program that did not talk anything about care plans? PCT sees a little baby, oh, isn't that baby cute, and picks baby up.
The baby was sick. So why
Sure.
would you even touch the baby?
Well, you would think it is, but there's a lot of people out there that think, well, I work in a hospital. I'm surrounded by sick babies. This baby is no different than that baby over there, and I pick that baby up. That apathy of daily work can get to everybody, guys. You start to normalize abnormal situations because that's what you're around. So we have to understand our role here in order to keep ourselves safe. Because if that CNA or that PCT was not taught about the care plan, and they're in there just doing what they do, they're going to be liable. They are going to be liable. And I didn't know is not a defense. I wasn't taught is not a defense, because the school will point to that yellow book and say, well, it was on page 26. Now, you and I know that one page out of the book is not explaining what a care plan is very well at all. But the school is covered. Page 26. That's right. So we have to, we do have to have a certain amount of guarding your own license here, CYA. And that's why I talked to you about the care plan. I'm trying to keep you in medicine for a long time. Okay? If it's in the care plan, all that PCT has to do is say care plan. And now it shifts to the nurse. All right. So what if you want to move out of state? If you want to move out of state, I have on page 172, 173, information on how to contact every board of nursing for every state. If you decide you want to move to New York, you're going to call up the New York CNA registry, say, I'm a Florida CNA. I want to be a New York CNA. What is it going to take? They're going to tell you, okay, no problem. Go get a background check for us. Here's our code. We don't take Florida's background checks. They're state specific. And then give us some money, a fee. And we'll give you a New York CNA certification based on the fact that you got one in Florida. You don't give up Florida's. You're going to get an extra one. Now, you can decide to let Florida lapse when it comes to renewal time if you're not coming back, no problem. Or you can keep both of them if you're going back and forth. But you will be granted a certification in another state based on the fact that you got one somewhere else. And that is called reciprocity. Big word, reciprocity. Not all states do that. Some states are like, hold up. Good for you. You got a CNA certification, but to get one here, we need you to take these specific online trainings to bring you into a line with our curriculum. Then do our background check, pay us some money, and we'll give you one. Other states are like, not so fast. We don't trust Florida because Florida doesn't require training. You can challenge. So here you have to take our test so we can really make sure that you know what you're doing. And then there are 2 or 3 states that are like, no, we don't take anything. If you want to be a CNA here, you go through school, you go through testing, you start from the beginning. You want to know that before you get into this. Like if you decide that you're going to move to, I don't even know, Tennessee, I think is one of them. Tennessee's like, no, you got to start over. You just, you got to go through our training.
Do you know every state that's like that?
No, I don't. And they change all the time. And a lot of it has to do with litigation, right? Because we just talked about this, right? There's ethical, there's procedural, and procedural is going to be dictated by the state statutes. So when a state has a situation like that one, the legislation is going to get involved in that. They're going to start making laws about who can do what. So that's going to change this whole process, right? So there's ethical, there's procedural, and there's legal. And all 3 of those are going to dictate what you can do in each setting. We got lots of bosses in healthcare. All right, so now let's talk about finding a job. Finding a job in healthcare is different from finding a job in other industries. If you want a job, just a plain old job, you go on to a local jobs board, right? Indeed, Career Builder, Snag a Job, Monster, whatever you use, and you look for a job. Or you might go to a kiosk in the front of a big box store down the road and just fill out a little application, right? So there's ways of finding jobs if you're looking for one. But in healthcare, that scenario changes a little bit. One of the reasons that scenario changes a little bit is because of frequent openings. We are never fully staffed anywhere, never fully staffed anywhere, which means there's always openings, okay? So we got all these places that we can work, and there's more than this. I just picked out like the top 9. All these places that we can work, and they all have openings. And if all of them posted all of their openings on every platform, all that you would see when you're going to look for a job is medical. That's it, because there's tons and tons and tons of medical. So that's not very helpful. There's also a cost to that. We're going to get to that in a minute. But in order for you to figure out where you should apply, you kind of have to know, where do I belong? Where should I be looking for a job? Because these are not all equal. We talked a little bit about this on Monday. I am no good in this setting. I'm bored. But most of my LPN career, when I had small children, was spent in this setting, because Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, perfect hours. When I had small children, I worked in a doctor's office and a walk-in clinic. Perfect. But the pay wasn't all that great. There's trade-offs. What was your question?
I was wondering what that was. You answered the question.
Oh, yeah, doctor's office, walk-in clinic. They were right next door to each other. I spent a good portion of my career here. Good portion of my career in hospice. I was a hospice case manager. Absolutely loved it. Still to this day, my favorite job. Yes, actually. Yep. Oh, wow. Yeah, I spent a lot of my career here. The most challenging part of my career was spent here in the ICU. Of course, I was on med surg for a long time and then ICU. I have worked here when I first got out of nursing school. I have worked here. I spent 8 years here in pediatrics. Yes and no. I love the kids. Can't stand the families.
Oh, true.
And you are in their home. Most pediatrics is done in the patient's home. with all the other kids they have who generally aren't disciplined. And the house may not be up to your cleanliness standards. And the parents may not discipline the way that you think discipline should be done. And the parents may not take the child to the therapy, or they may not follow through, right? So this has a lot of challenges. Kids are great. It's all the other stuff you got to deal with, right? I haven't worked in rehab. I worked in mental health. So when you're looking at this, each one of these that I have worked at had a different work environment totally. Different skills were needed from me. And there was a season in my life for all of them. I didn't get into one and stick with it for 50 years. I did lots of different things depending on what my life needed at that time. Brand new out of school, you got to figure out, where do you start? Now, you're not going to end there. I know that, but where do you start? For me, right after graduation of LPN school, I started at a nursing home. I did my year at a nursing home. But while I was a CNA, I was working in the hospital in sterile processing. So where are you going to start? It's not where you're going to end. That quiz that I gave you last class, this one will help you identify where you should start your career. Remember, it's not where you're going to end. But once you figure out where you should start, you can start your job search. So when you go on to these different search engines, you have to understand they all cost money. Every single one of these costs money. For every job opening you post, it costs money. And kind of equivalent, the best way for me to describe it, is about the same money I would pay an employee to do that job is what it's going to cost me to hire an employee to do that job. That's a lot of money for no big return on my part. I'm paying, but I'm not getting the work that I need. So you're not always going to see CNA positions on these jobs boards because it's just too expensive. Make sense? But I want to talk to you about one in particular, USA Jobs. USA Jobs is a free jobs board. It's free for you, but it's also free for the employers because this one lists all government jobs. So government jobs, federal prisons are going to be on there. The VA is going to be on there. State-run convalescent centers are going to be on there. State-run pediatric facilities are going to be on there. I actually saw an opening for the Department of Homeland Security for a CNA.
Wouldn't it be good to get in those jobs like the VA?
Oh, absolutely. Talk about benefits.
But the VA only has certain ones that they're hiring, right?
Well, right now, the whole government is, yeah. You know, anybody see those gag things? They look like cans of peanuts when you open it, like snakes pop out.
Yeah.
That's our government right now, right? There's just stuff everywhere. It is a shambles. There's no organization anywhere. It probably, the VA is on a hiring freeze. So I don't know when that's going to be, and I can't trust what I'm hearing out there because conflicting news reports. Go on there and look. Go on there and look. But I do want you to be aware of this. If you get into the VA system, it's much easier to move to another state through the VA system. So if you're looking to go to Kentucky or Colorado or Hawaii even, and you're working for the VA system, they make that transition much easier.
Wouldn't they also pay for schooling?
They do. Now, they did. I don't know after this whole shakeup what's going to happen because budgets are being trimmed everywhere. And although they did pay for schooling before, there may not be a budget for that after all this is. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with government spending. And government spending is bloated. I mean, we spend a lot of money. I get why this has to happen, but right now it makes it very difficult for me to explain to you about working for the government because it's a mess. All right, so all of these are going to cost money. And they all cost different amounts of money. But if I decide I have an opening, and I actually went through this, I was hiring about 3 years ago when I had the retail store, I had a position open. I was going to hire somebody. And I started contacting these to post a job posting. I couldn't afford it. I ended up putting a note in my window and a post on Facebook. Now hiring. I couldn't afford these. It was that expensive. So, if I'm advertising on Indeed and Monster, because some of you are on Indeed, some of you use Simply Hired, some of you use Career Builder, some of you use LinkedIn, and some of you use Snag a Job. If I'm going to apply or put a post on all of these, it's going to cost me more money than I have. So I got to pick and choose and hope that you are on the platform that I'm picking. That's not a very efficient way to find an employee. It's just not efficient. And it's expensive. So a lot of employers have decided this is not the way to go, especially healthcare employers. They're like, nah, this isn't functional for us. So how do we find a job in healthcare knowing that not all positions are going to be listed on online jobs boards? What we're going to do is go directly to the source. Every healthcare facility has a website. Everyone has a website. So if we go to our local hospital down the road, Hospital ABC, and we go to their website, in the top menu, you'll see jobs or careers or something like that. When you click that link, it'll bring you to a place where you can search the openings for that particular facility. So just go to each website that you would like for a facility you want to work at. So let's say that you want to work at the hospital right up here. You would go to Uncle Google, type in the name of the hospital, go to their website, and look for jobs or careers. Good? Makes sense? This is the best place to find a job opening. They own this website. It costs them nothing to post an opening. Nothing. Which is why it's the best source of information for you. But going to every single one of these can get a little overwhelming. So there are some other strategies. This is by far the best. But there are some other strategies that we can use as well. So go directly to their website and apply if you know exactly where you want to work. But I've actually done this work for you on my website. So if you go to 4YourCNA.com, same website, under after certification. Remember we were here for the renewal video? Right above it, I have local employers. I have a page. This is just for Hernando County, guys. I have a page that lists all of the hospitals. Now, I did list Citrus and Pasco counties for the hospitals. Nursing homes and rehabs, assisted living facilities. Down here, I've got home health care, mental health, another category. So there are lots and lots. If you click one of these, let's say Atria Evergreen Woods, we click on this name, it'll take you directly to their website, the jobs or careers tabs on their website. I've done all the linking for you. So all you got to do is go to this page, find where you want to apply, and click the link. I've made this super easy for you.
Should we apply like right before we take our test or after we take our test? Because I've seen different.
Okay, so the answer to that is yes.
Both?
Not helpful at all, is it?
Both.
So if you're going to apply to a hospital, you have to wait until after you test, because part of the application process is you have to put your CNA number in the application. So if you're going to go to a hospital, and they require the CNA, not all do, but you're going to have to wait. If you're going to go to work at a nursing home, assisted living facility, mental health center, they don't require, well, nursing homes do, but other settings don't require the CNA, so you can apply now. And just let them know, hey, I'm getting ready to test. I'll have my CNA. It usually gives you a little bump in pay. Yeah, it usually gives you a little bump in pay once you're certified. Absolutely. And if they aren't going to say it, they're not going to go look it up. They have no idea. So, hey, look what I just got, right? And they should, because you're going to be able to get a different level of client. So they should give you a bump in pay. If not, there are other home health companies that will.
So if you're home health aide now, if you get your CNA license and you tell them you have your CNA license, a lot of times they'll bump you up.
Yes,
Okay.
because they can now send you out to different clients.
Okay.
Would it be different for VA clients? Because they're my lowest paying right now, because obviously the VA is paying my
Right.
my company's paying me.
Right.
So would that not be?
Are you with CARES? No.
Bright Star.
Okay. So it should apply to both.
Okay.
Now, it depends on the client, though.
Okay.
If the client is only receiving home health care, personal care services, then, and they're sending you out to that client, there may not be a bump in pay because they're not going to get any more reimbursement. But if they know you have your CNA, now they can send you out to a client that's on oxygen or a client that needs vital signs taken. La, 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 la. I don't know anything. Yeah, you really should be certified to do higher level tasks, but yeah, I mean, I would certainly check with them. It's worth the conversation for sure. Worth the conversation. But this can take a lot of time, right? If you're just going through and applying to all these things, that can take a lot of time. Another opportunity for you to kind of narrow this down. Remember I said that every place has a website and has a jobs tab on the website, and I put it all on one page for you, but I didn't list everything out there because, I'm just hitting like your top, the top categories. If you go to Uncle Google, Google is the largest search engine in the world. Google crawls every single website. So Google knows what every website's job postings are. Google knows. Google knows everything. So if you go onto Google and you type in CNA job opening in your city, your town, whatever, it will list everything. And some of these are ones that I don't even know about that aren't going to be on my website. So this is kind of an all-in-one shopping opportunity. Think of this as the Amazon of finding a job. It lists everything. And you can click on it to go directly to that job posting. So I like this because nobody has to pay for it. So it's going to be very comprehensive. Now, the problem is that it also might show you positions that are no longer available because Google is not instant. It has to crawl the websites, and it usually does like every couple of weeks. So you might have some positions on here that aren't accurate.
So what other website do you see again that we can find the jobs?
Go directly to, if you know where you want to work, go directly to the employer's website. So if you want to work at ABC Hospital, go to abchospital.com.
At the very bottom of their main webpage, they'll have a bunch of subheadings.
The
at
footer,
bottom. There'll
yeah.
be one that says either contact us or careers at the very bottom. that's where you would find that information.
Okay. No, because on your web, on the 4YourCNA website, it says it's where we can find.
Yeah, so on the 4YourCNA website, let me get there. Okay. On the 4YourCNA website, under after certification, look for local employers.
Will it be, because everyone wants experience. How hard is it to get?
That's a catch-22. Everybody wants you to have experience, but nobody wants to hire you to get that experience. It can be a catch-22. It depends on where you want to work, to be very honest with you, because there's a risk here of getting pigeonholed. And I can't spend too terribly much time on this. This is like a career coach type thing. But let me give you the pros and cons here. If you go to work for an assisted living facility, that gives you your experience. Now you have experience to get into those other settings, okay? The problem is that when you get assisted living experience, that is all just personal care. It's kind of like home care. And it can pigeonhole you. If you spend too much time in that position, they think that you are not willing to learn the higher level skills that are going to be needed in more intensive settings. So you can go to work for an assisted living facility to get that experience, but don't stay too long. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Don't stay too long. Get your experience. And I hate to say that. It's an unfair playing field. And I get it. But especially if your goal is to get into a hospital specifically, they don't want you untrained. You're slow. You are taking 19 minutes to give a partial bed bath. And in a hospital, we don't have that kind of time. You need to be able to get in, do your stuff, and get out. You've also got to be comfortable talking to strangers and strangers' families. Because if you think the test is stressful, imagine walking into a patient's room where they just developed a bed sore and the doctor hasn't come around and the patient was supposed to be discharged yesterday and the family is completely ticked off at everybody who's wearing scrubs. So if you think that the test is stressful, that is nothing compared to the type of stress, emotional stress that you will experience in a hospital setting, because this is the most critical type of healthcare. So hospital settings don't like to hire brand new CNAs. You don't have the people skills, you don't have the stress management skills, and you don't have the physical skills yet to thrive in that kind of environment. And they don't want to spend all that time and all that money training you to have you leave. So I understand it. If you do apply to a hospital as a brand new CNA and you are lucky enough to get an interview, you better ace that interview. You better be able to tell them why you are the person for the job in no uncertain terms. You don't want to say things like, well, yeah, I just got my CNA and I really want to work in the hospital, but I haven't really worked in healthcare before. They aren't going to take a chance on you at all. Now, if you walk in and you say, I just completed my CNA program, I'm super excited about starting my career in medicine. My goal is to be in an acute care clinical setting because I have great prioritization skills. I work well with a team and I take direction very well and I work very well under stress. I thrive under pressure. I think I would be a good candidate for this position. Now, if you can go in with that level of confidence and sell yourself, you're much more likely to get the interview. As a brand new CNA, you probably don't have that level of confidence, which is why you aren't getting the jobs. Yep. I'm going to give you a speech to ace your interview in just a few minutes. I'm going to take care of that part for you. What I can't take care of is your confidence level. Okay, good. Okay. This is how I hired. I put a post on Facebook. Hey, scrub shop hiring. Anybody want to work around scrubs? And I got it. I got applicants. So your employers do this too. They put posts on social media, hiring a night CNA. Come see us. So hospitals have a Facebook account. They have an Instagram account. Go stalk it.
Isn't that true? I've heard that sometimes jobs, like if they're like gonna hire you,
Oh, they will absolutely.
Is that true?
Absolutely, 100%. So take all those bikini photos off of your Facebook before you start applying to medical professional jobs. Yep. They do not want to see your beer pong competition. You need to scrub your Facebook.
What if it's private?
They will probably still find it.
I don't think Facebook actually makes them private.
No,
It-
it just puts your
Yeah, the thing about private, and you may be safe. You might actually be safe, but the problem is that it's a social network, right? Social network, which means you have friends. How many Facebook friends do you have? Okay, couple hundred, right? So friends of those friends probably send you Facebook friend requests. Do you accept them?
no. I only accept people. in-
Okay, but some people do. Well, that's what happens even with private Facebook pages or profiles. You'll get a request of a friend of a friend of a friend because they've crawled the network to find you. So it'll say, you have 3 contacts in common. So you accept the friend request because you've got 3 contacts in common, not realizing that that is the IT professional at that facility. It's what they do. And their profile does not show that. It doesn't say, hey, I'm here to stalk you. It's just like George Jones. It's just a name. So yes, they will. They will. Absolutely. Not only that, when you get hired, you often have to give them your social media profiles because they want to make sure that you aren't violating HIPAA. They have to be able to monitor your social media feeds to make sure that you aren't posting sensitive information, photos, videos. We just had one a couple of months ago, a caregiver that was twerking on a disabled patient's head.
I think I saw that.
I hope she was fired.
Oh, yeah, more than fired.
Arrested?
No, she got to explain her actions in front of the board of nursing.
Oh.
And they are not nice. Yeah, but these things happen, right? So you guys have all seen that. You know these things happen. Your employer is responsible for making sure that you don't let these things happen. So how are they going to do that? They have to monitor your page. That's right. So a lot of employers will ask for your social media.
So I've seen like a bunch of people post on TikTok with like the people that they're taking care of and their face is on that. Isn't that violating HIPAA?
Absolutely.
So they can get fired even if the person was
Not just fired, fined. Fined. And it's something like $15,000 per occurrence. Yeah. Can you imagine going to your local credit union and say, I need a loan? Yeah. Yeah. They're serious about this. They are absolutely serious about this. Absolutely. Because unfortunately, healthcare people don't have a good ethical moral compass. They're looking for attention just like everybody else. It's like there was a famous basketball star that was in a helicopter accident. Both him and his, I'm not going to say names, no names, please. Both him and his daughter passed away very tragically in this helicopter accident. That's horrible. That's just a tragedy for the family. Can you imagine losing the father and the sister? Can you imagine that? Right? This is like heartbreaking stuff. And yet people that responded to that emergency scene, the fire people, the EMTs, the paramedics, took video and shared it with other people that did not have a right to see because it was a famous person. Oh, look at this guy's guts. Absolutely, they got in trouble. Absolutely, and they should have gotten in trouble. Absolutely. I will die on that hill. Somebody else's tragedy should not be used by healthcare people for attention, and that's all this is. So yeah, I believe that they have a right to stalk your social media profiles if you're going to work in medicine. It's a fair trade-off because they cannot expect you to police yourselves. There's too many that have not. And I will absolutely die on that hill. Absolutely. I mean, I am relatively well known in this community. Almost every nurse that you're going to work with has sat in the seats that you are sitting in. I am very well known in this medical community. When my mother was in the hospital, it took less than 2 hours for word to filter through that hospital because I was sitting at the bedside. Do you know who's here? Do you know who's here? And I had student after student after student come into that room. It wasn't a problem for me because I like to see my students, and that's wonderful. But can you see how that could have gone a different way? Did any of them really need to know that my mother was in the hospital and what she was there for? So we have to be careful here, right? We have to be careful. We do it without even thinking about it. They just wanted to come by and say hi and let me know where they were, and they were excited and they were happy. We have to be careful. Best way to find a job, though. We've gone over all of that. Those are all good ways to find a job, but the best way to find a job is this: your network, your circle. Everybody knows somebody that works in healthcare. Everybody knows somebody that works in healthcare in Florida. It's our only industry. Oh, we make a living off of old people. It's true. It is absolutely true. So you need to look around your circle, and you need to ask the people that work in healthcare, where do you work and do they have an opening? And this is why you want this stuff, don't you? Yes, this happens. If you contact Aunt Shirley, hey, Aunt Shirley, I got my CNA certification. Is your place hiring? And she says, yes, go and apply, put my name on the application. Because if they hire you, they're giving me money. And if you stick around 6 months, you'll get some money too. Because I would rather pay an employee to recruit for me than pay an online jobs board. Now, why is that? Well, there's something about a female-dominated work environment. Females tend to be very territorial and can be very cliquish and catty. The main reason that people leave jobs is because of the people they work with, not the job that they're doing. Toxicity. So in a female-oriented job setting, you're more likely to leave a position because you don't like the people you're working with. If staff is actively recruiting, they're recruiting people they like. We end up with less toxicity in the environment. Do you see how that works? This is the best way to find a job. Now, if you don't have this, if you don't have anybody in your orbit, if you don't want to work wherever they work, then use those other methods. But this right here, this will put money in your pocket and give you a work environment where you already know somebody. You're less likely to be bullied. So you can do some other things as well. You can attend job fairs. You can visit facilities in person. I am a big fan of this. I am a really big fan of this Because when you put an application in somewhere online, they don't know you. They don't see your name on a form on a screen. They have no idea who you are. But if you go in and you shake their hand, even the receptionist, I just wanted you to be able to put a face with a name. I've applied online and I'm waiting to hear. I'm super excited. That receptionist will then go tell the director, hey, this person stopped in. I am a big fan of this. And let me tell you how well this works. Where can I get the required hours to keep the certification? Just go on to your favorite search engine, type in CNA Inservices and your state, and a whole bunch will pop up. CNA Zone is one of them. Let me talk to you about this in-person thing. We had a young lady, when I was hiring at the store, we had a young lady that came in and applied, and I didn't think she was a good fit. I liked her. She's very sweet, very nice, but she was very timid. And I did not think that she would be a good fit because I needed somebody that could compliment a lady that was coming out of the dressing room trying on scrubs. I needed somebody that could make suggestions based on body type. I needed somebody that wasn't very timid, that could enhance sales and help the customer find the right thing for them. And I just didn't think she was a good fit. But I really couldn't find anybody else. I did some more interviewing and it just wasn't anybody that was clicking. She called me and said, I'm just following up 2 days after I interviewed her, just following up. I said, okay, I still haven't made a decision yet, but thank you very much. I'll keep you in mind. And then she came in 2 days later, shook my hand, just following up. I hired her on the spot. I didn't think she was a good fit. And it turned out she really wasn't. I kept her for a year. I was right in my assessment, but I hired her. I hired her because she made it easy to hire her. And if she's making that much effort to actually show up, she might show up for a shift. I hired her. There is something about this that works. Be the squeaky wheel. Job fairs, community events, trade magazines. We just had a job fair for TGH Brooksville. I think it was at Marker 48 Brewing, I think. But they have them now at like every other month. So go on to TGH Brooksville's website and look for a job fair if that's where you want to work. Yeah. So, yeah, Brooksville. Yeah. I want to say it was at Marker 48 because I actually thought about going. Not because I'm looking for a job, but, you know, there's an excuse there. I'm going for networking. Yep. So good?
I heard sending, which I do sometimes, I've done in the past.
We're going to talk about it.
Letter.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Writing that.
We're going to talk about that. Great suggestion, but hold up. I got a couple things to get to before we get there. All right, so when you're applying for a job, especially online, there's some tips that you have to follow. Make sure your job application matches the job description exactly. If the job description says BLS required, do not write that you have CPR. If it says BLS required, what are you going to write? You've got BLS. BLS is CPR. But if the job description says something, your application has to match it. Because this application online does not go to a human. You need to understand that. Applications online do not go to humans first. They go through a filter system first. And if your application does not meet at least 80% of the job description filter, it gets tossed. You don't even get notified. You have no idea that your application died 20 seconds after it was submitted. You have no idea. You just never hear back. So whatever that job description says, it's the same terminology you want to use in your application. Be militant about this. You also want to apply to all positions listed. If there's a CNA position on 3rd floor, 4th floor, and 5th floor, you're going to apply to 3rd floor, 4th floor, and 5th floor unless there's a reason you don't want to work in one of those units. If you're not a neuro PCU person, then don't apply to the neuro PCU one. but as a brand new CNA, you probably don't have any preferences. Apply to all of them, because one application is only going to go to that department. It doesn't get shared across the hospital. And chances are you're not going to hear anything. Chances are you're not going to make it past this on your first go around. So if you don't hear anything in a week, apply again to the same position. If you don't hear anything in a week, apply again to the same opening. The more your name comes across, the more likely you are to get an interview. I don't know why. I think that this process is really restrictive. But these are the hints that I have given that work. I've had hundreds of students that come back and told me this works, especially for hospitals. You will not get a response on your first application to a hospital. You just won't. You won't. Again and again and again. Okay? Now, let's say you applied, you filled out the application right, it matched the job description, and you got a phone call for an interview. Congratulations. Now you've got to sell yourself. This is just step 2 in the process. When you go for a job interview, there's a couple things you have to remember. First, very important, make sure you arrive early. Not Tuesday early, but 10 to 15 minutes early. And you think you're arriving early to make a good impression. That is not why you're arriving early. You are arriving early because you are agreeing to give up, a minimum of 8 hours of every working day to a place that you may or may not like. You are going to spend more time, more of your waking hours at work than you do with your family. How long do you think you should date somebody before you marry them? And that's somebody you're going to live with, right? That's probably minimum, yeah. Okay. So if you're going to date somebody for a year before you marry them, and you're going to spend more time here than you are with that person, you've only got one date here. Usually about 15 minutes to figure out if this is the right place for you to spend your non-family time. You better make the most of it, because there's nothing more miserable than waking up and going, oh God, I've got to go to work. I hate this place. This is your opportunity to figure that out. So you need to go early, and you need to use all of your senses. You need to watch how long it takes for call lights to be answered. Tells you a little bit about their staffing. You need to listen to how CNAs are talking to one another and how the nurses are talking to the staff. Tells you a little bit about the work environment, how toxic it is. You need to use your nose. If there's a lot of bad odors, that means the CNAs are not taking care of those patients appropriately. You're not going to get any help. You guys see how that is going to impact your decision? You need to interview them as much as they're interviewing you. There's no shortage of CNA positions right now. You can afford to be picky. You should be picky, because you guys are going to be excellent CNAs. Don't sell yourself to the lowest bidder. You've got quality on your side. But you've got to make a determination on where you want to apply those skills. This is how you do it. Make sense? When you go in, you want to make eye contact. Remember, half of our job is observation. If you aren't making eye contact during the interview, you're not going to make observations in a stressful clinical setting. You're just not. We know that. So eye contact is important. Make sure you stand up straight. A little bit of pride goes a long way. Not cocky, but a little pride. Make sure you're shaking hands appropriately. This is not a handshake. Nobody's going to kiss your ring. You're not the queen of anything. Hand out, thumb up, grasp firmly, once up, once down, withdraw. That is a handshake. Don't do this. This does not show any confidence in yourself. Handshake. Don't arm wrestle. Handshake. Make sure you're dressed appropriately. Scrubs are appropriate for entry level. Dress for the job you intend to get. You intend to be a CNA. Dress like a CNA. Perfectly okay. But your scrubs need to be neat, clean, pressed. They should have lines in them. If you don't know your way around an iron, take them to a dry cleaner. And they should be solid in color. Darker colors are best. If you know the colors of the CNAs at the facility you're interviewing, wear that if you have it. So if you are interviewing at a place that has their CNAs in red scrubs and you happen to have red scrubs, wear red scrubs. It's not presumptuous. What it's telling them is you've researched the facility, you know what's required, and you are willing to comply with the dress code. That action goes a long way, because about 10 years ago, they switched from letting people wear whatever they wanted to putting them in specific colors. And staff rebelled. And for a year, all of the managers had to play fashion police, go home and put the right scrubs on. And they hated it. Can you imagine trying to tell grown adults how to get dressed and having to cover patients while you sent them home to get dressed? And this left a really bad taste in your manager's mouths. Really bad taste. So if you show up wearing prints, they are not going to hire you because they know you're going to be a problem. It's that simple. You can wear business professional if that's all you have. If you don't have scrubs, wear business professional. That's fine.
So I used to do clinical hours, and then the facility used to have, when we were assigned with a CNA. She was new to here, and she didn't have the scrubs yet. So say I start the job, but I don't have the scrubs yet with my own clinical, like the screening and all that.
That's a great question for an interview.
Okay.
So during the interview, you're going to say, what is the time period where I need to be in uniform? Do I need to be in the right colors for shadowing? Or is there some leniency there until I get my first paycheck? Okay. Good. All right. You want to answer questions completely but briefly. Respect their time. Respect their time, but make sure you're giving them the information they're looking for. You also want to ask questions. You probably don't know what questions to ask yet. So if you turn the page, I think it's on page 177, I think, has interview questions. 176. Okay, possible interview questions. You should take some of these with you because you don't know what to ask yet. You're new to the industry. You don't know what you need to ask. You should also take a notebook and a pen with you. They should be in your pocket, just a small pocket notebook. And that's because you write down your questions so you know what to ask. But if you get offered a position, it goes something like this. Okay, we'd like to offer you a position on the 3 to 11 shift, and you'll be working on the second floor. We do orientation starting on Monday. So you'll need to be orientations over in the medical office building, the second floor, room 212. And you're going to be meeting with Janine over there. You'll be with her for 3 days. And you can just wear casual clothing for those 3 days. And then you're going to come over here and I'm going to put you with, let's say, Susan. I think Susan would be a good preceptor for you. So we'll put you with Susan. You'll need to be in scrubs at that point. Our scrubs here for CNAs are royal blue. And you'll be with Susan for about 2 weeks while you get acclimated to the facility. Okay? We'll see you on Monday. How much of that did you just remember? You probably didn't hear anything past, I want to give you an offer. So you leave the interview, you have no idea where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to wear, who you're supposed to see. So you're going to end up calling the facility. And that receptionist has no idea either. So if you have a notebook in your pocket, it gives you a chance to write all of this stuff down. and it makes you look organized and detail oriented, which are always very good things. Good. The other thing that you want to write down is what they're offering to pay you. It is an appropriate question to ask about pay, but how you ask matters. You don't want to say, so how much you can pay me for this? It's not how we ask. We're going to ask, what is the starting rate of pay for somebody with my level of experience for this position? It's in the possible interview questions for you. You don't have to write it down. But when they say, okay, here we start our CNAs at $16.50 an hour. If you've got experience behind you, you can negotiate. If you have no experience behind you, you really don't have a whole lot to stand on and negotiate. Keep that in mind. But you want to write that down in your book. Okay, and they're going to watch you write that down, $16.50. So that when you get into orientation and you start signing your paperwork and it says $14.25, you can pull out your notebook and you can say, I'm sorry, during the interview, it's a whole lot more weight if you have it written down than if you say, oh, well, the woman I interviewed with told me $16.50. We don't have any record of that. May not be legal, but it goes a whole lot further. Make sense? You want to write down what they're offering. And this is, unfortunately, a very common trick that they play. Very common trick. They will offer you a rate, get you hired, and then once they get you into orientation, they change it. You want to have something to refer back to.
So, like, say I was to work down the information on this paper and I bring, would that be okay? Or
Yeah. It's not a contract, but it gives you something to stand on.
okay.
What would be a proper way to negotiate pay?
I understand that this is how I would do it. I understand that your starting rate is $16.50 an hour. However, I've got 4 years of experience, and I'm not really sure you're taking that into account here. I've got 4 years experience in a home care setting, and while that may not be completely relevant to this, I do have prioritization, organization skills, great time management skills. I've also become very comfortable talking to patients and families, and I believe I would be a very good asset to your team. That's how I would negotiate. And I guarantee you they're going to offer me more money.
So put your, the things that you're good at. out.
Right. You all have skills. They may not seem medically related, but they are. You have skills. We're going to find that out in just a minute. You're going to see what skills you have. So we're going to dress neatly. Make a packet when you go for your interview to give to them. You can't be hired if you aren't remembered. You don't have enough experience really to be remembered. You're going to interview okay, but so are other people. So you're probably not going to be remembered. If you leave a packet, now I used to tell them to put the blue card in there. Of course, we don't have blue cards anymore, but you can print out your certification online. You want a resume, your certification, CPR and first aid if you've got it, a certificate of completion for any in-services that you've done, any additional certifications you have. If you have your med tech, put that in there. If you have your home health aid, put that in there. And then if you're doing home care, give them a copy of your driver's license and insurance card as well. So why do we do this? Oh, great job. Brown Skying girl. Congratulations. Great job. So why do you want to do this? Well, remember, we want to be remembered, right? So at the end of the day, you've come in and interviewed, and so did 6 other people. They all came in, interviewed, went home. At the end of the day, I'm going to clean up my desk before I leave. And I pick up this packet and I flip through it and I go, oh, I remember this person. Oh, yeah, they interviewed. They actually did pretty good. It brings you back to mind, but it also does something more important than that. If I want to hire you, I have to call you up and say, hey, I'd like to give you an opportunity, but we've got to finish out your employee folder. So I need from you a resume, because our corporation requires a resume. I need a copy of your certification, your first aid and CPR cards, your any additional in-services that you've done. I need all of this to hire you. If you take it with you, you're hireable right away. If not, they have to call you up and say, hey, get all this stuff together, drop it off. Human Resources will check it out. They'll get back with me and I'll call you at some point to schedule orientation. Or start Monday. Which one am I going to do as the employer? Easy. Start Monday. So take a packet with you. It makes you hireable. This did not come from me, guys. I told you that everybody that's going to be hiring you knows me in this community. Most of them have sat in my class. They came back and told me, this is what we need to hire your students. This came from the employers that want to hire you. You probably want to listen to that. Remember, I had the only scrub shop in the county for 17 years. I know them all.
I went to one time to the scrub shop too.
Did you? Most people have. We don't have it anymore, but all right. So make that packet. It is important. Make a good impression. Shake hands. Stand up straight. Be polite. This is now the time to pull out your yes ma'ams and no ma'ams, your pleases and thank yous.
What was the packet again? I'm sorry.
It's in your book on page 176.
Thank you.
Eye contact is important. You want to answer questions. You want to make sure you understand the job requirements. You want to be prepared, confident, and explain why you are a good choice. Thank you. And that's what we're going to talk about now. An interview is your opportunity to shine and get noticed. But remember, we have to be remembered too. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to be remembered. Part of that is this. You're going to get during an interview, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I don't care what industry you're in. When you go to an interview, they ask you this question because they don't know you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. So if I asked you guys to tell me a little bit about yourself, you all would get a deer in the headlight look. You've known me now for 4 weeks and you'll still be nervous giving me this because you don't have anything prepared. You know it's coming, but you don't have an answer prepared. Why? Because you don't know what to say. That's why. So I'm going to help you with this. There's actually a formula that you can use to create your answer. So the review sheet that was just handed out to you, if you turn it over, this is our formula. In order to create the formula, we need a couple of things. We need to know your past job roles. What were you before you went into medicine? Home health aide. Some of you were servers. Some of you worked in customer service. Some of you were homemakers. What are your past job roles? What have you done in the past? Now, while you were doing that thing, whatever it was, what kind of skills did you acquire? Time management, prioritization, organization, the ability to diffuse emotional situations or handle conflict. You have a ton of skills. You just don't think that you have a ton of skills. So we got to figure out what those are. We want to know why you want to work in healthcare. Why are you sitting in this class right now? Okay, to help others. That's a good reason. What? Passion, the heart of it. How many of you guys are looking for a recession-proof job opportunity because you see what's on the horizon? Okay. Some of you are here because you're looking for an opportunity to advance. You don't want a dead-end job. You want to be able to advance. Some of you are here because your family works in healthcare and they encouraged you in this direction. There's a ton of reasons that you might be here. You got to figure out why you, the most important one to you. And then we got to look at our own personality. What makes us us? And we're going to use all of that together to create our statement. So here's some soft skills, okay? Active listening, attention to detail, anticipating needs, communication, conflict management, interpersonal skills, observation skills, professional, and you can read through this. So for me, if I were to look at this, now I have most of these, but if I were to look at this and pick up my top 3, my personal top 3, it would be attention to detail. You've seen that through my teaching. It would be anticipating needs because I know what questions you're going to ask before you ask them. And communication because I communicate in a way that you can understand. I actually adapt my communication to the needs of each one of you. Those are my top 3. I would not, in any universe, pick punctuality. Why?
Because we're adults, we should be able to be functional.
Okay, but me personally, why?
Not functional.
Thank you. I am not punctual. I roll up in this place 5 minutes before we go live. I am not punctual. That is not me. Well, you guys know, hey, I'm perfectly okay with my weaknesses. I'm working on them, but I'm a work in progress. I got 3 excellent strengths over here that help outshine that. You guys all still came, even though I was late. Think about that. Think about that. You guys are all still here, right? So you have to do this with a self-critical eye. Don't just pick 3 at random. Pick 3 that actually identify you. That's how you build confidence in what you're going to present. Good? Make sense? This is not random. Don't just pick 3. Spend some time on this. Pick 3 that really means something to you. You got to figure out why you're here. Are you here for advancement opportunities, more flexibility in scheduling? Some of you are going to go on for nursing. That flexibility is super important. You want to relay that to them because you want to set expectations early. Opportunities to care for others, that's the heart, the passion. Hands-on care, more clinical role. This is especially important for those of you who are doing home care. And options that best fit my talents, right? Why are you doing this? And then you got to figure out what makes you you. Are you flexible, dedicated, energetic, positive, responsible, honest, passionate about the care I provide, dedicated to teamwork? I am all of these things. If you doubt my passion, I've done something wrong because it should shine out very clearly that I am passionate about CNAs. I am dedicated. I am here every class. I create a ton of stuff for you guys beyond class. I am dedicated to your success. I'm also pretty flexible, right? So what defines you? Now, once we have all that, and you use that worksheet to circle the ones that describe you, once you have all that, we're going to put it together. Your past job role, the one that means the most to you, the soft skills that you developed in that role, the reason that you're transitioning into a CNA role, and what 3 personality traits you have. We put it all together and we create this. So I'll give you one if you were a server. In my previous career as a server, I developed teamwork, attention to detail, and anticipating needs. And I'm excited about transitioning those skills into my new healthcare career. I took a CNA class and I got certified as a CNA because I am passionate about helping others. And I believe that my qualities of attention to detail, dedication, and a positive personality would be very helpful in this setting. And I feel like I am a good candidate for this position. That is a whole lot better than, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I was born in Virginia. This is what they want to know. Why should they hire you? If you say what I just said, you will get the job. You will. And this works for any industry. If you're going to work, trying to get a job as a mechanic, you can use this. Tailor it to that setting. It's a very simple formula, but it is highly effective. Good. If you got nothing else out of today, this is what will get you hired. It's that powerful. At the end of the interview, you should send a thank you note. And I do this by mail. I do not send emails. If you could see my email inbox right now, I have hundreds of emails that I have to answer. Yeah, he sees my email. I can't get away with that, can I? I don't want any more emails. I'm going to click it as read. I'm not even going to read it. But you send me something in the mail and I have to open up an envelope, I get excited. I want to see what's in that envelope. What did somebody send me? This is awesome. This will get opened. Very simple. I go to the Dollar Tree, $1.25. I pick up 10 blank thank you cards and I write them out. I leave blank the name of the person I'm addressing it to. Don't put a name in there. Dear blank, thank you for the opportunity to interview with you today. I look forward to hearing your decision. Please let me know if you have any further questions. Sincerely, my name. At the end of the interview, I go out to my car and I write in the name of the person that I just interviewed with. I put it in the envelope that I've already addressed, write the name of the person that I interviewed. It's already got a stamp on it because I do that before I go into the interview. I drive directly to the post office. I don't stop at Walmart because Walmart will suck you in and you'll forget. Your interview isn't over until you go to the post office and you put this in the blue box. Now your interview's over. If you do that, they will get this the next day. Remember I said you can't be hired if you aren't remembered? This gets you back in front of the interviewer. And again, it's just like that employee coming to me and saying, hey, they'll hire you. Because if you're working that hard to get the job, you will show up for the job.
What if, since you said, because that the girl kept coming to you, what if I send a thank you note in person?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because it's all about respecting their time.
Right.
They're busy. This they can do on their own schedule. Okay.
Do I send a thank you note to like the job you wanted to, the address of the job you wanted?
The address of the job, attention, the name of the person that you spoke with. Okay, so let's say I interview with Sandy. In my car, I've got this letter, and I've got an envelope that's Hospital ABC 123 Anywhere Lane, Anytown, Florida, zip code. At the bottom, I'm going to write attention, Sandy. On the card, I'm going to write where it says, Dear Sandy. I put the card in the envelope, seal it up, take it to the blue box, and put it in. Okay, good. Now, even better if you know Sandy's last name or title, but they'll figure it out.
In some cases, you could put attention hiring supervisor,
Yeah.
hiring manager.
HR.
Yeah. It comes across a little less personal, but it still serves its purpose.
Right. Sometimes you are going to be offered a PRN position. I got to go. Sometimes you will be offered a PRN position. PRN is not an on-call position. It just means as needed. So you tell them when you're available, they put you on the schedule on those days when they need you. It's a great way to get an extended interview. A lot of places will hire PRN before they consider you for full-time, because full-time, if I don't like you, it takes me forever to get rid of you. In the meantime, you're messing with my patients. I don't like that. So most healthcare positions will start out as PRN. If they like you, they'll keep using you and offer you a full-time position. If they don't like you, they just aren't going to put you on the schedule. I'm sorry, we don't need you this week. If you are on a PRN position and they are consistently not using you, you probably should use a little self-reflection. There's a reason they're not putting you on that schedule. Benefits of a PRN is it's a higher pay. There's no benefits, but it's a higher pay and flexible scheduling. So those of you going to school, this is going to be your ticket. Just because you're leaving us doesn't mean we're leaving you. We still have opportunities for you. We have the videos on YouTube. We have the game show on the first and third Tuesday of every month. You still have access to the online course, which you probably haven't even started yet. Over 100 lessons you have access to. You've been enrolled, and they will help you prepare for the state exam. You also have the book. You have the ebook that you should have downloaded. It was in the wrap-up emails. And you have access to me. So you're leaving class, but we're not leaving you. Okay? Please let me know how you do. We've already talked about the practice test. If you need supplies to practice with, the practice kit is a very good option. It has everything you need to practice for the state exam. What's that? Gloves? Yeah, just take them out of the box. Okay. We also have flashcards, card game, that type of thing. You guys all know that. And the online course. Game show will be Tuesday. Game show will be Tuesday. So if you can, please come put your yellow book here. And then I'm going to take a class photo. And I'll give you your graduation folders. So those of you that are joining us virtually, thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember the game show is on Tuesday. Unfortunately, I have to sign off now. So we will see you in we have 2.5 weeks before our next course will start. So we'll see you then. Until next time, watch out for the new videos. I'm going to be dropping more as we go. Happy caregiving. Bye.